Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
And here we go, off and running on this Thursday. We appreciate those of you that are listening live. And if it's taped, we're going to give you a great preview of the Pitt game. We've got a lot going on. John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel is today, as he is each and every Thursday. And also Chris Landry of Landry Football will join us. So we're locked and loaded. She is Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Amanda, how are you this morning?
I am doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm well. So it is Tennessee Pitt Week, the Johnny Majors Classic. And when I think back to Johnny Majors, I think of a guy that really salvaged his reputation. It's a column that I'm going to write for Off the Hook Sports later today, and you can check it out online. I think of a guy that salvaged his reputation, Amanda, because there's a good bit, and you're younger than me, but there's a good bit of the time in the 2000s and 90s that he was taking pot shots at his golf charity event at Philip Fulmer. Somebody came to him and said, you need to get away from that. I'm really glad that happened, because now he's celebrated. And if you met him, you would just love him. He was just maybe you have, but he was just an incredible man. And because
you didn't like Philip Fulmer?
Well, no, Philip Fulmer essentially, as he would say it, I was laying in the hospital bed and they were working on my front, and Philip was stabbing me in the back.
I like him then.
So
already.
Yeah. So that is what was going on. But he, if you were a local reporter, the Newport Business Daily or whatever that might be, it was easy to go up to him if he were at some sort of golf event and say, so what do you think about the balls? All right. So if you didn't get that big quote, then you'd say, what do you think about the job Philip Fulmer is doing? Done. Story written. Done. And somebody came to him and he said, you need to stop that. You need to, and I'm sure Philip Fulmer getting fired led to him being welcomed back in the university. And boy, he loves some Lane Kiffin. Why? Because he wasn't Philip Fulmer. So I'm glad. I was just thinking about that today, that this is celebrated. And Pitt fans, I saw a picture of t-shirts saying the Johnny Majors Classic, and he would have been remembered as a bitter man had he not changed that direction. Instead, he should be remembered as a guy that should have won the Heisman. He finished second, won a national championship at Pitt, came to Tennessee, had one of the most memorable teams in 1985, those Sugar Balls of all time. I mean, other than the 98 team, that's probably second. We always have things we want to get to in terms of news, but I just want to go kind of off script, Amanda. And I'm just really glad he's remembered in the right way.
I mean, yeah, I think that's him changing his perspective, or whoever came to him and said, hey, you should really not do this anymore, deserves some kind of an award for that.
Yeah. And now he would tell you what he thought still off the record. I will go ahead.
That's good. Good.
I'm going to share real quick my favorite Johnny Majors story. May I do that?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm sorry to do Uncle Dave story time, but I'm in the facility, and this is like 2 days after Lane Kiffin's bolted. Okay. So he loved Lane Kiffin because he wasn't Philip Fulmer. And he came out and talked about publicly how much he liked Lane Kiffin. And then Lane Kiffin, after a year, goes. He's out. Right. So I don't know why Johnny Majors was in the facility, but I bumped into him. And I said, I thought that I would say, what do you think about Lane Kiffin? And he would say, oh, you don't leave a university after a year. You've got to be somewhat loyal. No, he was still defending Lane Kiffin. And I said, coach is leaving after a year. And he goes, happens all the time. He said, I got to tell you. And you go back to the 1980s, and this guy left after a year at Louisville. And you go back to the 1970s, and this guy left. And you go back to the 19. Okay, so he goes all the way back, Amanda, I kid you not, to the 1950s. Okay. So I'm driving home from the facility. I'm like, okay, well, I'll write a Johnny Majors reaction piece. I'm driving home, and it's a number I don't recognize. It's when I get home, I check my voicemail. He goes, Dave, want to tell you, there was a guy in the 1940s also that that he left after 2 years, and this Bob Jones at Army in 1930s left after 1 year. He was the most amazing football historian. I kid you not. He went back to the 1920s.
Wow. Just off the top of his head?
Well, now he went. Could he have looked it up? Maybe, but he went in front of me. He went all the way to the 50s. So I think that it just popped in his head, and he had to call me immediately. I don't think goodness, did we even have Google back in 2009? So
we had Google.
Oh yeah, I know, but I don't think Johnny Majors was a regular user of Google.
Probably not. I would have to agree with that. I would seriously doubt that he was a regular user of Google in that time period.
Well, I wanted to share that story, and the other story that I just want to share quickly about Johnny Majors is I was going to be the co-host of the Johnny Majors show with Johnny Majors. And we had the affiliates lined up, and we had all the problem is nobody selling it. I had 2 full-time jobs at the time. And but I remember he came up to me, and this is the guy in my formative years, okay, that's walking the sidelines of Neyland Stadium, that I would get up every Sunday morning and watch the Johnny Majors show with John Ward. And so this is that guy. And he comes up to me, he goes, I can be a little long-winded. So you tell me. And I said, Coach, you want your answers to be 45 seconds. And out of that first pilot that we did the whole show, an hour show. He asked me to nudge him if he ever went longer than 45 seconds. I only had to nudge him one time. That clock, and that's coaching. When you tell somebody, you ask somebody to do something and just boom. I mean, I just he was an absolute treasure. So we've got an awful lot to get to. So let's do that. The down and dirty. I apologize, Amanda, for just kind of getting off kilter. But
no, I'm here for it. I enjoyed it.
You wouldn't have liked him. You would have loved him. He was just. I'm not overspeaking this. He was just a really, really cool guy to be around. The Mattress Place brings you that story of Johnny Majors, 22 years on Chapman Highway, Marine Corps veteran, owned A+ accredited member of the Better Business Bureau. And it's gimmicks. It's 30 to 70% off each and every day. How about that? And it's on Chapman Highway, about 2 miles if you want to just go to the mattress store, that they will take care of you. And you're close. You're right there next to downtown. So, Amanda, as we are off and rolling, it's the down and dirty at 30. And I wanted to get to your thoughts on what Joey Halsell had to say, Tennessee's quarterbacks coach, earlier about Hendon Hooker, which I found very interesting. And it's something we wrote about. And that is, they just expect him to be different. They're beyond that of hoping he'll be that guy. He is that guy. I thought that was affirmed. And then a great piece by Caleb Calhoun that these two teams have played each other. These two groups of people have played each other extensively. Hooker, of course, when he was with Virginia Tech, and Heupel when he was at Central Florida. So there's a lot of familiarity there. And man, I'm curious what you expect out of Hooker this year. We've never discussed that as much as we've talked over the summer. What do you expect out of him? What's a good thumbnail sketch?
I mean, I expect him to be one of the most successful quarterbacks that Tennessee's ever seen. He kind of reminds me of a Josh Dobbs, to be honest, just maybe a little bit, I don't know, more mobile, more speedy. I don't know, more energetic. I don't think Dobbs really brought a lot of energy to the game as far as I can remember. Now, of course, I didn't follow Tennessee that, extensively, but I know Dobbs, there's a reason why he wasn't named the starter and he was, not a good practice QB, but a good game QB, as in now he's at the Steelers and we see that he's, Josh Rosen's getting cut and Dobbs is still there. So I think there's a lot of talent there. And it reminds me, Hendon reminds me of him. He just does. But I feel like Hendon has a bigger upsize. I think that he has a lot of speed. I think he has a lot of just knowledge of the game. And he looks like he's completely in control. And I think that's not something that Tennessee's seen in a long time.
Dobbs is an interesting comparison because I think off the field they're very similar. We talk a lot about Hendon Hooker's faith, but really it's the attention to detail and that sort of thing that separates him. The ability to remain focused despite all of the issues that happened in his career with Va Tech. And I really think that when you look at the two quarterbacks, the similarities are pretty striking in terms of, now I like Hooker's release. If we want to talk about the athletic ability, I think both needed or may get better at needed to get better at getting the ball out quickly. I think that arm strength they both had, at accuracy at times wanes. A lot of similarities that I hadn't thought of, but I think the ability to overcome hurdles is probably the one thing that stands out to me. So, all right, down and dirty at 30 as we get to the news in the college football world. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, no, that's my Mac, isn't bashful about his expansion strategy. So he said, is that your Mac or my Mac? It's got an apple on it.
I have a Mac.
I have a Mac. I like to pour Diet Dr. Pepper on my Mac at SEC Media Days.
Yes,
Your Mac it said expand west. Should the SEC be even concerned about the Big 12 trying to mount up and do something? I mean, to me, the SEC's in the catbird seat. The Big 10 is just maybe a little bit below it. What ends up happening with this whole conference realignment thing is just absolutely bizarre to me, Amanda.
At the moment, it seems to me like it's the SEC, Big 10, and then everybody's vying for their own lives. Like it is a complete flailing of every other conference. It looks like the Pac-12 has kind of just given up and said, we surrender, we're good.
Like they're tapping out.
Yeah, we lost USC and UCLA, so we're out. We'll see y'all later, whatever. But the Big 12 is trying so hard to stay relevant. I mean, they are really like it's a sad look. They're scrambling. And like every other week there's something coming out about the Big 12 doing this or the Big 12 doing that or trying to attract a bunch of people. It's like the, not so good looking guy at the club just running around to every hot looking girl that he can find, trying to just get one to bite. I mean, that's the Big 12 in my mind.
No, it's about right. So the Big 12, I'm not exactly sure what that conference is in the next 5 years. I feel like the most obvious answer, right, is for the Big 12 and the Pac-12 to say, hey, we got to cobble something together here like tomorrow.
Let's just join forces.
Yes.
They could call themselves the Pig 12. I don't know.
Line of the day goes to Amanda LaFratta. She just beat your Mac, my Mac.
Thank you.
So I had the line of the day for roughly, I would say, maybe 3 minutes. All right. So that's the down and dirty. I want to include a shout out. You might be surprised that we don't talk a lot of tennis, but I did want to give a shout out to last night. The match just shouldn't end. It was Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner, two bright stars in tennis. And why is this significant? It's because you suddenly have a young man who is going to be able to play in the finals of the U.S. Open for the first time, an African American male for the first time since Arthur Ashe in the 70s. And it's kind of surprising that we've seen the Serena and Venus pop up, and we've seen Tiger Woods do so well at golf. And I was a bit taken aback by that, but kudos to that young man. Again, it's not about tennis really. It's about persevering in a place that maybe you don't look like everybody else, but you compete and you play hard. So wanted to give that guy a shout out. I thought that was pretty cool.
I wonder if, and I mean, I agree with you. Good for him. I wonder if he is a little jaded on the fact that he is not going to get to play Djokovic.
Probably. I mean, probably a little dismayed, but
yeah, I'd be upset.
It comes after the 50-year anniversary, and there was a good piece in the Knoxville News Sentinel about Condridge Holloway becoming the first African American quarterback in the SEC, and that was at Tennessee. And it reminds you that we've come a long way, certainly have. And Condridge Holloway was just absolutely fantastic. And really, if the NFL had been open-minded, he would have had a long, successful NFL career. He did in the CFL. The color of his skin and his playing style, probably more the color of his skin, kept him from being a successful NFL quarterback. So I truly believe he would have. There's no question in my mind. It's time for today's tough question. Today's tough question is brought to you by our friends at Pettigo Chattanooga. Pettigo Chattanooga is locally owned, where you'll be treated like family. The region's bike experts. They absolutely put their hearts into helping you find the perfect electric bike and get the most out of it for many years to come. So what are you thinking about today's question today, Amanda LaFratta?
So I am thinking that we go either the Hendon Hooker route. What do you expect out of Hendon Hooker? Or maybe a Pitt, like over under. How do you feel? Like, do you think Tennessee loses, wins by, a touchdown or more, or wins by whatever?
I really like the what do you think about Hendon Hooker? How do we quantify it? And by the way, my apologies for not playing your element. I need to do that. Sorry.
Be nice.
How about the right element?
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my Soupe Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake, kimosabi?
Oh my God.
Okay. What about, I'm just going to throw this out there. Tell me what you think. Hendon Hooker, Heisman winner, Heisman finalist, first team All-SEC.
Heisman candidate.
Well, by finalist, you go to New York. So that's why I had the one. I think he is a candidate. So I would say Heisman winner, Heisman finalist, and then first team All-SEC, which would probably mean something bad would happen to Bryce Young, or Hendon Hooker would play incredibly well, or second team All-SEC. What do you think about those four qualifiers? Do those work for you? Tweak it?
Well, the only problem with that is if he's first team All-SEC, he's a Heisman finalist. You know what I mean?
That's true. Well, make us a slash. Can you make it some sort of slash or something like that? Can we do that? You determine that, and then you can vote on Twitter we will have that question out there for you. And I don't think that he's going to be a Heisman finalist. And I say that simply because of Bryce Young being in the SEC. But do I think in any other year, if there's not a Bryce Young that's a Heisman winner at the University of Alabama and is probably going to have great success? Yeah, I mean, I think that if we were having that conversation and we didn't know what we know about Bryce Young, I think it would be a way different conversation. I think that certainly Hendon Hooker could be in New York. It certainly would be a possibility. So,
I don't think that they're going to put Bryce Young back in there. I just don't. They don't want a back-to-back Heisman. They only had one, Archie Griffin at Ole Miss. That's all they want. They don't want another one.
Ohio State. Right.
Or Ohio State, sorry. Ohio State.
Yeah.
They don't want another one.
Who's they?
That's just they. People in general, the media, people don't want a back-to-back Heisman, winner, especially not one from Alabama. Everybody hates Alabama. So
I thought you were going to say they is the voters, and they is a very, very mixed bag. When I place my Heisman vote, you can ask my wife. It takes me about 3 or 4 hours in some years when I'm really torn. And it's really more about sometimes a third person because you can only vote for 3 people. But they is also somebody that doesn't really watch or cover college football anymore. They is also former Heisman winners who probably don't care or have their kid do it. So they is
the hype.
Yeah, they is a lot of people. Now they also, as you referred to it, is the media. So you want Hendon Hooker back there. I don't know.
Bryce Young.
I'm sorry, Bryce. Yeah. Do you want Bryce Young back there? I don't know. I think that's a very compelling story if he were to win 2 in a row. So I think he'll at least be there, don't you? At the ceremony.
I mean, he might be there, barring anything happening injury wise, or him just deciding one day that he hates football, like the guy at LSU. But I don't see that happening. I mean, he'll be there, but will they give it to him? No. If it's going to be somebody from Alabama that is going to win the Heisman, it's going to be Will Anderson.
Well, I thought you might say that, and that to me, I'm going to judge it based off the impact on the team, and you do. There's no clear definition of what the Heisman Trophy winner is. It's just the most outstanding player in college football. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean off the field stuff too? Does that mean well, I mean, it could be. It's each.
They took that out.
Well, I mean, but it affects a voter. Like I could say, Hendon Hooker has the scripture book. I want to lean towards him. So it could affect your voting, but that's basically just what they tell you. And as far as biggest impact on the team, the thing that Will Anderson is so interesting is, he's not a big sack guy, but he's a big behind the line of scrimmage guy. A lot of tackles for loss. He's better than Jadeveon Clowney. I'm sorry, it's not close. Jadeveon Clowney, you could run at him. I mean, Will Anderson is a once in a generational top player. But at the end of the day, I have a feeling come December, I'm going to have to sit down and ask myself, would I rather have an excellent, or let's put it this way. Would I rather have a very good Bryce Young, who plays quarterback, the most important position, or would I rather have an incredibly generational, dominant top of guy in Will Anderson at defensive end / linebacker? That's tough.
Would you rather have Aaron Donald or Aaron Rodgers?
That's the debate. I mean, I'm a Trent guy too, so that's difficult. Right now, okay, how about this? Would you rather have Hendon Hooker or I don't want to go too far back. Would you rather have Hendon Hooker or John Henderson? How about this? Would you rather have Hendon Hooker or Derek Barnett, who set the single season sack record? If you wanted to compare, I mean, Derek Barnett was not a generational player, but a very dominant defensive end. Hooker, on the other hand, is a very good quarterback, probably not elite. I don't know. It's a very interesting debate. When there's a reason why everybody says, which is the stupidest stat ever, this quarterback is 6-1 against Ball State.
It's not like he's the only one that ever played it.
I know. I hate that stat.
It's like a whole team effort here.
I totally hate that stat. So we've got today's tough question. Amanda's going to further craft that. And then John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel is now. John's brought to you by Viles Automotive Group there on Callahan. Viles Automotive Group is absolutely unbelievable when it comes to integrity. And don't forget about Big Orange Phillies just down the road. Great wings, Big Orange Phillies. Here is John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel as we look back on Ball State and preview Pitt. Our care department, and they appreciate your business, and that's Viles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. So, John, let's talk about the Vols, but first, your most inappropriate moment in a press conference that you can recall, because Brian Kelly goes to his press conference at LSU on Monday after a loss, and a couple of the media members were late. And they walk in and he says, "Oh, holiday weekend, and we run a little bit late." And some lady speaks up and says, "Well, if you'd win, we'd be on time." Your thoughts?
I thought that was inappropriate for a reporter to do that. I mean, Brian Kelly he was just kidding around in the context of what had just happened and how much heat Brian Kelly was taking on social media. I thought it was a little out of place. Not that I believe you need to treat coaches with reverence, but just in the context of what was going on, that was unnecessary.
I agree. I think the most inappropriate comments that I've ever heard of the press conference are actually about you from Tennessee football players, but that was a long time ago. So, John,
well,
they were not happy about John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel at times in the Philip Fulmer transition, but we've moved forward. So
transition, that's a nice euphemism for what happened. The guy got fired. Okay.
Yeah, that is a fair point. So Tennessee against Ball State, I mean, there are a ton of things you could look at that game. We could break down every single opponent, but mine is the thing I took away from that game really more than anything than yardage or stats is composure. I just thought Hendon Hooker from the top down, the offense looked very, very composed. The defense did what it had to do. They've been knocked for no sacks. But, John, I just thought they lived up to the hype, which doesn't always happen in sports.
Yeah, in some ways, I thought Tennessee exceeded the hype because you mentioned Hendon Hooker's poise. That was very evident. I really liked the way the offensive line played, and I know that it's against Ball State, but it did make there weren't false starts. It was just a very efficient, business-like performance, and we didn't see that in the opener last year. I think we see what another year of Josh Heupel's system means to these players. But overall, some of the younger guys played well, so you can't evaluate how good a team is by what it does against a Ball State. That's maybe the worst team in the MAC. If we can compare in a couple of weeks when Tennessee plays Akron, which also could be a candidate for worst team in the MAC. But overall, I just thought for a first game, Tennessee's offense looked really in sync, and that's a good sign because let's face it, this team's success really hinges on the offense. The defense has got to fans hope it plays better, but even if it doesn't, if the offense is really rolling, Tennessee can still beat a lot of teams.
Big Orange Philly is a great place to watch the game and games this weekend as Tennessee plays Pitt, but they'll have all of them on. And Big Orange Phillies is family friendly, so you can take the whole crew down there. It's North Knoxville on Maynardville Pike, very easy to find. I had the wings last time there. They are superb. The food is great across the board. And they've got billiards. They've got all kinds of things to have fun and keep you entertained and the kids entertained. They've got darts as well. So certainly check them out, Big Orange Phillies. But, John, as far as the rankings, Tennessee ranked number 24. I was looking forward to this conversation partly because you've done the AP voting before. And you and I share the same sentiment about it. It should be pretty volatile, but I think most, if not 90% of the media members just kind of use it as a tiering system. You have to, win one game to move up. Talk about your approach, if you can, when you did the AP and voting poll for the top 25. And what did you think of Tennessee being in at 24?
I've done it about 15 times. I always, I think when you make your preseason top 25 and draw that up, I look at that as how I think the teams might finish. But I don't etch it in stone. I go every week. I think, as you mentioned, you need to jumble things up and evaluate on performance, not on what you thought. It's not as though you're married to that preseason top 25. And it's almost as though some guys are so insecure they think they've got to honor their picks. And if a team wins, if it's ranked number one and it wins, some voters leave it in number one. That's not the way it's supposed to be. For example, if you base on performance, competition, and so forth, Georgia should be number one in the country. I mean, it beat a nationally ranked team. Oregon was number 11. Maybe it was overrated. But based on the facts we know, that was a dominant performance. Yeah, Alabama was dominant too, but it wasn't against a team of that caliber. So I think Oregon will be a decent team. I just think Georgia was that good on that day. Doesn't mean Alabama, you still might think Alabama will win the national championship, but you do this on a week-to-week basis. As for Tennessee's ranking, that was pretty much expected because enough teams will lose. It was right on the fringe of the top 25 in preseason. So that was pretty obvious that would happen. Florida jumped into the top 25. Really doesn't mean much at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't mean much at all. And ultimately we'll see how the college football playoff decides to pick 12 teams. But right now it doesn't really mean anything in the 4. I mean, they could totally go off schedule and just hey, it doesn't have to be the top 4 ranked teams, and it wouldn't surprise me if that were to happen. We also haven't visited since the college football playoff goes to 12 teams. So before we get to Tennessee, your thoughts on the expansion? Who needs 4? Let's just go right to 12. Lightning speed.
I know. I actually would prefer 8. Here's the thing, and I remember this from all the times I've done a top 25 poll. It's actually easier to pick the top 4 teams. When you get down there and you're trying to choose between 12 and 13, 7 and 8's hard enough. That's why I would have prefer an 8 team. I think it's going to be really difficult when you get down to choosing 11, 12, and who doesn't make it. That will be very challenging. And I tell you what, if you look at it right now, SEC's got. I mean, SEC could have 4 teams in the top 12.
Yeah, it could theoretically have 5.
Depending on how good the league is or what happens during the season. But you're right. I mean, I don't know how the rest of college football is going to feel about it when the SEC puts 4 or 5 teams in the playoff.
Pitt is a much better team than Ball State. This just in. And Pitt is a football team that is way different than it was a year ago when they beat Tennessee. They don't have a first-round NFL draft pick at quarterback. They don't have the Fred Biletnikoff Award winner. And it's a team that runs more off play action. So how much can Tennessee draw from last year's game in which Joe Milton started and Cooper Mays, the center, didn't play? This is just 2 totally different teams.
Yeah, back to Ball State for a second. A lot better. Yeah, a lot better. We could go down to a supermarket or Walmart or wherever and round up 22 people, probably be about as good as Ball State. Give us a week to practice and get our systems in place. Pitt I think it's significant that you go back to last year. Tennessee played the wrong quarterback, at least started the wrong quarterback. It was just the second game with Heupel's system. It's playing at home, and it still beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not as good as it was last year offensively. Defense might be just as good, if not better. But I really like the way the matchups work out. Tennessee's offense against Pittsburgh's defense. Pittsburgh, Pat Narduzzi has played this way when he's defensive coordinator at Michigan State. Takes a lot of chances. You saw that against West Virginia. It just says we're going after the quarterback. We're selling out. We're coming after him. Play man coverage on the outside. Take a lot of chances. Enforce big plays defensively. That can work sometimes. It can backfire other times. I think Tennessee has the right offense to capitalize on Pittsburgh's gambles.
Yeah, I also wonder about.
Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus the complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
It certainly is. With Amanda LaFratta, I'm Dave Hooker, and it is time for a very, very special guest. It is the coach. Chris Landry joins us now of Landry Football, and sometimes we even put it on the right screen and we get people moved around if you're watching video. Chris, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you and Amanda doing this morning?
Oh, I'm rocking it, just as usual. Hey, I want to go off schedule for just a second here, and because I opened the show and I shared some of my thoughts about Johnny Majors, and this is the Johnny Majors Classic, Pitt in Tennessee. You got a Johnny Majors story?
Yeah, I mean, I came in contact with him a bit, but probably the one that's more personal. When I was coaching at LSU. I actually interviewed for a job at Tennessee on the Tennessee staff. Coach Majors was there at the time. And they were, there was they were looking at a couple of things and I was considering going there as the recruiting coordinator, but they had a lot of guys, at that time. And I was intrigued by it. And I was at the time thinking that maybe that I might want to go in the NFL, and the timing wasn't right. I had the similar situation, ironically, with Michigan not long after that. But anyway, so I went in and he was an interesting guy. But I will tell you that as much beloved as he is at Tennessee, he is probably among the people that have worked for him the least liked people ever. I had one friend that I worked with that worked for Johnny Majors at Pitt. And I had several others, but one of them told me, he says, do not go there at all. I mean, he is, and I won't go into the gory deed, but the point is he said that's just not. You will be miserable with him, and so that's just kind of a. I've probably had a dozen guys that have coached for him, and they all say the same thing. Was just not well liked in terms of how he, and that's just, look, that's neither here or there. But they're two guys that I have really not heard anybody that's worked for them that's had anything nice to say about them. And that's Johnny Majors and Lou Holtz. Those are two of the guys that, I mean, strength coaches, coordinators, position coaches, recruiting coordinators, just, and maybe Lou Holtz was the worst, because Lou Holtz would be the guy that would go into, he'd be the head coach, and Dave Hooker, the running back, would come in and he'd say, Dave, I think you're a really good player. I like you very much. But I tell you, but your running back coach, Amanda, she doesn't like it. I'm telling you right now. So I would tell you right now, he would just pit the player against the position coach, and he was very, very decisive. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I don't want to get off that. But that's kind of, he didn't speak with a lisp like Lou Holtz, but Johnny Majors was kind of the same type of guy, according to coaches that coach with him. Full disclosure, never coached with the guy. I'm not saying that that's the way he was for certain, because I didn't coach with him, but I'd say about 12 to 15 guys that work for him that say the same thing independently, probably the good indicator. But, meant a lot, was a great player. Great player. Was known to, remember, he lost the Heisman Trophy that year, probably should have won it. Paul Hornung won it on a losing Notre Dame team. But anyway, a great player, and he did a great job at Tennessee. And, the job that he and Jackie Sherrill did at Pitt before there was recruiting limitations, that was a team. I was at that game personally in 1976 when Pitt won the national championship with Tony Dorsett before he changed his name to Dorsett.
It was Dorsett. I got cursed out by Lou Holtz one time.
Well, you're just one of 10 that day.
I want Amanda to jump in here. I do want to tell you, Chris's appearance brought to you in part by Craft Treats. Go to Craft Treats, and they've got the CBD that is in the treats that will make your pet much, much more comfortable, whether it is anxiety, arthritis, whatever the case may be. That's Craft Treats. Go to crafttreats.com and be sure and check them out, because your pet will feel better. Amanda?
So I know a lot of people have it's a big discussion of Tennessee, Mount Rushmore of Tennessee, University of Tennessee people. On that level, who do you think is the most influential person on Tennessee sport, in Tennessee sports history? I know Johnny Majors is in that conversation. Peyton Manning is in that conversation. Who would you say?
I'm a football guy. I'm a football guy. So I think that probably when people think Tennessee and they think greatness, they probably think Pat Summitt, in sports, and I, college basketball has become more, women's college basketball has become more and more important. And I don't watch it as much as the men. Although when I do watch it, I will say that the way they play underneath the hoop is sometimes more exciting. I would say she would be that. I would think Johnny Majors. I would think Reggie White. I think Doug Atkins. I think Peyton Manning. I think, those are the ones that jump. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to forget this, but I'm going to tell you who I would put there, because I thought it was unbelievable. The Bernie and Ernie show in basketball. Ernie Grunfeld. I just think that those are some there. I'm sure I'm missing a tennis coach or a track coach somewhere that I'm not as familiar with, but that's what I think.
Playing off that, if you were to pick the four, before we get a Pitt preview, if you were to pick the four Mount Rushmores, the four people of Mount Rushmore, just Tennessee football only, who would you go with?
I would put, and I'm not putting him in the order, but because he's fresh, I would put Johnny Majors in there. Guy was, again, a great player that most people don't remember being a great player, because and see him. Great player. General, if we throw coaches in there? I mean, General Nealon has got to be in there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, General Nealon is just godlike. He's just the stadium's named after him, rightly so. So I would say General Nealon and Coach Majors. I think Peyton would be in that group. I think Reggie White would be in that group. I mean, there are a lot of other great players, but I think when I think of transformative guys that may be on and off the field meant a lot, probably those. I mean, there's some great. I mean, you start throwing in really good players or great players like an Al Wilson or somebody else, and then you can run that list for 25, 30 because there've been a lot of good players. But I would probably, if it's Mount Rushmore, we got to keep 4 or 5 in there, cheat a little bit and just I would put those 4. I would maybe put Peyton in there with Reggie White, and I would go with definitely Coach Nealon and Coach Majors. And I'm going to tell you, I would say Coach Nealon and Coach Majors because basically Coach Nealon was just, he had a program that was dominant in that era and kind of basically built it in what I would call the modern era in that time period. And then Coach Majors as a player and as a coach, I mean, what more can you say about that? Look, I guess some people might throw out, and I don't know what you think about that. I mean, just because they won the national championship, people might throw Philip Fulmer in the mix. I don't know that he'd be real popular right now. But I wouldn't. I thought Philip was a good player. I thought Philip was a good recruiter. But some people would throw him in there because they won the national championship with him. But if I'm putting 4, I'm leaving him off.
Wow.
So, I would leave him out too.
Because I would put Johnny Majors in there because of as a player and a coach. And, if you're just looking at, he was a good coach, but he was a great player. So I'm looking at, you tell me if I can only put 4, I got to cut somebody off. I'd put Reggie White and Peyton Manning before I put Philip Fulmer in there. And I'm not trying to, say anything, go off on Philip Fulmer. I'm just, if I got 4, I just think that, and I know everybody loves him. No, not T. Martin, because he was quarterback of the team. They did win because of T. Martin. They won with him, and he's really good. But no, that's the 4 I would go with. I haven't given a lot of thought though, so maybe I'll change my mind.
So along those lines, do you think, and this is a little bit of a loaded question, I know that, but do you think that could you see Heupel breaching that 4 of the Mount Rushmore of Tennessee if he stays, if he continues to do what he's doing now? Do you see him being that much of an impact in Tennessee sports history?
That's really hard. Second year to.
Do you think he has the ability?
I think just to answer, I would say no, because I don't think that. I think he's doing a great job, with the program. I think time will tell whether he will just have a good program that scores a bunch of points or he'll build a championship level team with a championship level defense. I question whether he's going to do that or is even, more inclined to just stick with his offensive style and win that way, which I think he would fall short. I think people have this tendency to say, boy, look, Tennessee's been so bad for a while. And look what Josh has done. He's great. So they tend to think that next year's going to be better and next year's better. And they'll recruit better on defense and they'll be better and they'll do that. Not unless he changes. And he might. So I can't honestly, I can't answer because I don't know what he's going to do. But I would say that his style is going to allow Tennessee to be really good. But is it going to be like what Georgia and Alabama is currently or what Florida is trying to do? And I don't know if Florida is going to execute it well enough, but what Florida is doing, you better be a line of scrimmage team that is elite. And Tennessee's not that way, and I don't know that they're built that way. What they are is we're going to be quick tempo, and they are playing like a team that is a less talented and we got to trick you to win. Well, I get it. They got to do that now. But until Tennessee and Josh can recruit top 5, recruit evenly with Georgia and Alabama, and have a little bit more balanced way to play the game, then they'll fall short at the championship level. Now, as we go into the expansion, could there be a team that make the playoffs? Yes. But will they advance? But here's the thing that I don't know. Nick Saban's not going to be there forever. Kirby Smart likely will, but we don't know I don't know what's going to happen 5-6 years from now, who's going to be there. So I expect Georgia to be dominant. I don't expect, maybe in a given year Tennessee could win it, but they could certainly beat Georgia on a given game. But I don't see Tennessee's program being as good as Georgia's under the lifespan of Josh Heupel. So it's going to be kind of hard if you look at it, what made Philip Fulmer successful is that he competed with Steve Spurrier, and it was Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee as the 2 best teams in the SEC. Now, Florida was better. Florida won more of those games, and Spurrier was better, and people recognize that. But at least Philip in that era was really good. I think Josh is in a tough era. Right now he's got Saban that he's going up against every year, and he's got Georgia that, quite frankly, is the new Alabama, and I don't foresee Kirby Smart leaving for another college job. And I really don't see him as a guy that would want to be challenged by going to the NFL unless somebody in the administration aggravates him enough to where he'd want to leave. I see Georgia as the program that everybody's chasing. And I think that maybe Florida might have the best chance of getting closer to him because of what Billy Napier's style is. I don't know if he's going to get it done, but I'm more impressed with what they're trying to do at Florida than at Tennessee. I like what they're doing. I just think they've got a lower ceiling until they become better on defense. So my challenge is, will Josh do that and adjust to that? Because Lincoln Riley, who's, I use that example all the time, didn't do that at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is one of those elite programs, but they weren't physical enough. Yep. Is Tennessee going to be physical enough? I mean, that's up to Josh in Tennessee. They can be. They have all the resources to be. But to your point, is Josh going to be able to do that? That's not his style. So he's going to have to change his style, or he's just going to be a really good coach. It's going to be fun to watch, and we'll see them pull an upset, but you're going to see a ceiling that's going to limit them in terms of national prominence. I feel, at least that's how I see it now, and subject to change. I change all the time when I see things change.
Speaking of, it talks about change. There are a lot of great changes at Owl's Nest Barbecue. Owl's Nest Barbecue has fantastic items. They've got a big, huge, monstrous billboard up top too, which is cool. Owl's Nest Barbecue has all your supplies that you need, whether it's wood chips. They also have the great sauces and the rubs. They're top notch. That is Owl's Nest Barbecue there in Ooltewah. So, Chris, give me the top 3 concerns specifically from an X's and O's standpoint, even if you want to pick out players that Tennessee should have leading into the Pitt game.
Well, I think the first thing is, will Tennessee offensively be able to run the football? And I think, are they going to do it with tempo? They probably need to, because I do think that Pitt's defensive line is better than Tennessee's offensive line. And I think what they'll try to do is they'll try to gas their defensive line by running fast tempo. And again, that's what they do. And that's probably the advantage that they have. But this Pitt defensive line is really good. So I think that's key, because running the football kind of controls the pace. They certainly are in a position to be able to get some early points out of the passing game. But I think that's call it a concern or an area where I think they'll be challenged. I think that, to me, being able to block that front is going to be the biggest concern that I would have. In terms of players, I think I'll go back to the defensive line for Pitt. I mean, or I stay with it, because I think that's the real key. They've got really good players. So I'm curious. Now, Tennessee did not run the football well in this game last year, but Jabari Small, if you remember, didn't play in the second half. So I think that's the key. That's the thing that I'm looking for the most. I think defensively, I'm curious to see how Tennessee defends the run. Pitt's going to run it. They're going to try to be physical. So to me, I don't know if I call it concerns, but the most intrigue in the game is the running game, both sides for Tennessee. Can they run it? Run it with tempo? Can they line up and run it with power when they have to, if they have to in situations? can they defend the run of Pittsburgh? Because the only way Pittsburgh stays in this game is if they can control the game offensively with the run game. Because they can't match point for Tennessee. Tennessee's too explosive. But if Pitt can take the air out of the ball a little bit and run it and reduce the possessions, what that does not only limits Tennessee's possessions, but it kind of breaks the momentum and the tempo for Tennessee's offense or any team that runs tempo. So you want to break that tempo. It's kind of like anything else. Like a basketball team, they want to run, get up and down the floor. If you take it up, slow it down to half court, they just get a little antsy. And that's what you want to do against Pittsburgh or against Tennessee if you're Pittsburgh.
Right. So what, I guess, what player are you expecting out of Tennessee to make the biggest impact on this game? Or do you see a player maybe emerging that we haven't really paid a lot of attention to?
I feel like somebody on defense might step up, might be able to make some plays in the front. I think that's going to be key, it could be the interior of the defensive line to slow down the run game, because I'm going back to that. That's going to be key. Offensively, I think it's pretty easy. I think it's quarterback, it's receivers. Those are the guys that are going to make big plays. And then I think the run game with Jabari Small, that's what I'm kind of looking for there. I think the game plan is going to be this for Tennessee: score points early out of the passing game, and try to be a little bit more balanced as the game goes along with the run. But again, a lot of that is you go in with an idea, but what you do and what play you check into run or pass, and what type of run or pass is all predicated on how the defense plays against you. So you might go in and we want to throw it, and then they're dropping 8. Well, you're running the football then, or vice versa. So I think that that's what Tennessee wants to do. They'll get a lead, because if they get a lead and Pitt has to play from behind, I think they feel like that if Pitt has to throw it, that they feel like they could get some stops, and then they could separate from them. What they've got to do, even if they've got to sell out, is against Pittsburgh's run. Because if Pittsburgh can run it and play their tempo, then Pitt can keep this game close. And it's close, you got a real chance to go on and win it in the fourth quarter.
As far as when you scout a team, do you feel like stepping away from an opening game in which a team was challenged, say West Virginia with Pitt, do you learn more about that team as opposed to a team like Tennessee that played Ball State and really was not pushed at all?
You do, but there's circumstances that contribute to that. So Pitt's got a new offensive coordinator. So you don't have Mark Whipple in there. He's at Nebraska now. So you're looking at Pitt in one game, even though it's against West Virginia, you're looking at Frank Cignetti's offense, which that they want to run it a little bit more. That, but you only really got – now you got – here's the thing, and what I always did is, so where Frank Cignetti's been, what Pat Narduzzi wants to do, so you have an idea what they're going to do. But you don't have much tape on the Frank Cignetti offense at Pitt. You got one game, unless you go back a few years with different personnel. Whereas with Tennessee, you don't learn much out of the Ball State game, but you got a whole year of knowing what Josh likes to do. And while some of the personnel has changed, what they're going to try to do. So I think in general, you get more out of playing against a better opponent. But you got to me, look at other factors, which I mentioned, that would contribute to it. It's really difficult, guys. I tell you, early in the year, when you play a team and they got a new coordinator, you got no tape. And so you're going back and look, well, what did he do at this school or that school? And you try to pull out a lot of stuff. And so that's something that is always intriguing. But you only got one game here with Cignetti.
Let me ask you this too. So as a coach, would you rather have the lower level opponent to fine tune some things, or as a coach, would you rather have the opponent that's going to get your players' attention in the offseason? Would you rather have Ball State or would you rather have West Virginia?
Depends on the team. If I'm a really good program like an Alabama or Georgia, I want to play a better opponent because it gets my guys focused. I'm deep into the program. If I'm a growing program like Tennessee, I like to have Ball State Because if you play, I mean, look, if Tennessee plays, a really good opponent week one, they may not win it. So, I mean, it comes down to what is the likelihood that you can win the game. For Tennessee, you're better off playing Ball State because you can work through some things. You've got some new pieces, but you know that you're going to win it even if you got some things to clean up. If you play a team that's really good, then all of a sudden you don't know. You may end up at 0-1. I mean, let me give you an example. LSU played Florida State. Now, LSU's in a different spot. They're rebuilding and whatnot. If they had played Southern week one, which they play this week, they win the game, even if they played sloppy and all of that. And, people are not going, ape about what happened. And then they probably are in a better position to take on Florida State this week. I'm not saying they'd win or not, but you follow me? So I think it does depend on the team. The better the team, the better the program, the better opponent I want to play early because I get my guys' attention all year long, all off season long. And I think that's the best way to test yourself. But if you don't have that type of program and you're trying to build it, I want to make sure that I get a win even though I'm trying to build it, because if you don't, then that becomes a problem. I'm going to tell you the worst scenario, though, is you play a bad team and you lose. That's, and you don't want to play a team that everybody thinks you're going to rip apart like North Carolina, and you're playing a really good team like Appalachian State. Now, they didn't just schedule that last year. Or let me give you another one. We talked about it on LandryFootball.com, but Virginia Tech, Brent Pry, first-year coach, they're playing an Old Dominion team that's bringing back a veteran squad that's really good. We picked it. We picked Old Dominion's going to flat. Virginia Tech was beaten, and most people said lay the points, and I said Old Dominion's going to win this game outright. And now that looks bad because it's not only that opponent you should beat, it's right up down the road, and it's like, in the reality, it's just we live in a world now. Everything that happens today is the greatest thing in the world, or it's the worst crisis in the world, and tomorrow we flip it.
Yeah. So let's go back to the LSU debacle against Florida State. What is it looking like for Brian Kelly, especially when he has at least his number one receiver, taking everything off of his Instagram and reportedly headed into the transfer portal within this week? So is he lost control of the team, or is it more of he needs to come in and gain control and bring in his own people? Like, what do you see about that situation?
It's the latter. There's a mess. Now, I checked into it. What happened with the Instagram is, he was frustrated. Butte, I'm talking about, was frustrated. And so the coaches and the administration said, look, because he's a guy that kind of worries about what people say. And he says, look, they told him, look, the best thing to do is just take all your stuff down. So about 2 or 3 of the players, including him, took all their stuff off of Instagram. So that wasn't like, well, I'm ticked off at you, I'm doing it. So that was done. I don't know that Butte's going into the transfer portal. In the offseason, he considered doing it. I think he's frustrated. But as I've said before, what happens when you take over a program that lacked the discipline, which they did under Ed Orgeron, it is tough to discipline guys. It's not that they don't want to be disciplined, but they're used to doing it a certain way. Anybody can relate. I don't care what it is in an office, how you write expense reports, how you do that. Well, that's not how we did it before. I can't believe I got to do it this way. It's now all of a sudden, Brian has been brought in to clean things up, to organize things, to discipline. This is how we're going to practice. This is what we're going to do. Why do we got to do a walkthrough on the day of the game? Because that's the way I like to do it, and that's the way we're going to do it. And so, yeah, it's why Nick Saban struggled at Alabama in his first year and lost to Louisiana Monroe. You know why? Because his players weren't buying in. They were doing it the way Mike Shula did it, and you're going to do it the way he wants it done, and there's no now, like Nick did and like Brian's trying to do, you can't run those players off. If you do, then you might. Nick ran all the players off that were complaining when he first got there. They might have been, 3-8 because everybody left. And Brian, so you've got to try to be patient and give these players a chance to learn that this is what we have to do. This is how we're going to do it. And some of them may not buy in, some might, but eventually it'll go, look, here's what I do know. People have asked me all week. Obviously, you can imagine being in Louisiana. What does it mean? Everybody's reacting. Here's what I do know. I can't guarantee any results. I know that he built a Division III program at Grand Valley State out of nothing, and he made that into a power. Then he goes to Central Michigan, and he takes that and makes that probably the premier program in the MAC while he was there, and it was near the bottom. He goes to Cincinnati, and all the success that Cincinnati's had is a lot to do with what he did there. He goes to Notre Dame. He's been there at Notre Dame longer than anybody, won more games than anybody at Notre Dame, and took teams that with players that, that he couldn't recruit, that Alabama and LSU, the likes of them, are recruiting in Clemson, and he went to the playoffs a few times. I know this. The guy has done it. Now, is he the right, look, the other thing I'll tell you about Brian is, he knows he's got the reputation as being a hard ass. And he's not funny. Okay. He's trying to be lighthearted because he's trying to show lightheartedness. I mean, he's trying to show that he's not the hard ass. But some people are just not funny. When John McKay says, a great USC coach when he was at Tampa Bay, he said, what do you think about your team's execution? He says, man, I'm all for it. Everybody laughed because it was funny. It was a different time, a different era, but he was funny. When Brian tries to do it, he kind of stumbles, and people say, well, is he serious? But we also live in a world where whatever you say, it's like, oh, I can't believe he said that. My God. So Brian is not, how to deal with things. I mean, it's just like the whole, I haven't even won all my games yet. And he's trying to fit in. I think he just needs to be himself, because Nick didn't change anything when he came to LSU. I got that all the time. Not a fit here. He's a Midwestern guy. We don't do that. He doesn't like crawfish. I mean, how are we going to have a coach here that doesn't like crawfish? Like, that matters. I mean, it's just idiotic stuff. People, know Nick Saban built that. You don't need to be from here, whatever. And I don't think you need to try to fit in. I just think you need to be yourself. I think he'll be fine, but nothing's going to be fine this year because it's going to be a difficulty, and people don't like Brian because of the reasons I mentioned. The Notre Dame folks hate him because he left Notre Dame. Everybody else hate him because he coached at Notre Dame, and he's not Mr. Personality, so people don't like him. But I think he's a really good coach. I know he's been a really good coach. He's going to have to deal with, he's making a lot of money to deal with a lot of crap that he's going to deal with this year in Baton Rouge.
Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. You'll know more about football than anybody else. All right, 3 reasons why Tennessee wins this football game, Chris, if you think that's the case, if you want to give a prediction, or 3 factors that Tennessee, 3 goals Tennessee needs to accomplish. Your thoughts on the upcoming game. And by the way, people are reminded me to say, click the subscribe button on our message board. So yes, click it and click like.
Click it, absolutely. Click and subscribe. Absolutely.
Yes, Chris.
Got to do that all the time. Do that all the time.
Chris, thank you for doing. Chris Welch actually on the message board is doing my job for me. So
attaboy, Chris. Good job.
I appreciate that. And then Marlon McKinney of Ball Stuff is also on board. So he had this statement I just want to throw out there before we get to your 3 key factors. Benjamin says he only watches for Amanda. But the 3 key factors.
I think that's what most people do, but go ahead. Yeah.
Fair point. You got a perfect face for radio, right?
Not for me. I can tell you that.
That's me. Marlon McKinney said of Ball Stuff, Pitt's receivers look stout against West Virginia. Does Tennessee secondary stand a chance at slowing down Pitt's passing game? And Marlon also said a new quarterback, but he looked pretty decent. So Maybe that's because the receivers made him look good. Chris, if you can kind of address those and give us your 3 key factors, and we'll let you out of here.
Yeah, look, I think I think Tennessee wins it because I think Tennessee's able to make enough explosive plays to make Pitt play from behind. I think Pitt can throw it. I think they can be successful, but I don't think they're as explosive as Tennessee is or will be. I think because of that, they won't, Pitt at some points not going to be able to stay committed to the running game for as long as they'd like to. And I think that's going to be the key. But that is the key to the game, and I think they'll do that. I think that's why they'll win it. Listen, Pitt's receivers are really big. They're physical. They don't have the big playmakers, but they can make plays on the ball, catch the ball. It is a area where I would favor Pitt. And I do think that they've got a quarterback that, while not Kenny Pickett, is a talented guy that can throw it. So I do think they can have success. But I think they're more a ball possession team. I think they can make some big plays. But I think it really depends upon Tennessee's pass rush. Look, I don't think this secondary right now for Tennessee, particularly on the outside, is going to cover good receivers consistently. I didn't think they, at times covered well against Ball State. But I think with a better pass rush, and I thought they rushed the passer pretty well last week, even though they didn't get sacks. I think they're going to have to do a very good job there. If they don't, then I think Pitt could make some plays in the passing game. But matching point for point, I don't think they can. I don't think they will. It's why I like Tennessee in this game. I think the experience factor. I think the fact that, Pitt was a better team last year with Pickett, with Addison, with the experience. I just think Tennessee's a better team right now than they were last year when they played Pitt. So I think that's the difference. I also think health is a part of it. I think they're going to have Jabari Small, and I hope, for 4 quarters, where they didn't have him last year. I think the inability to run the football last year against this Pitt team was a big reason why they didn't have success. And I know everybody's focusing on, well, it's Joe Milton. If they'd have played Hendon Hooker, probably would have been a difference as well. But we don't know that. But I think Jabari Small, the running game would have been much more effective last year and will likely be this year with his return.
Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. We appreciate you, sir. Have a fantastic weekend and enjoy some ball. Thanks, man.
I will. Like and subscribe, everybody. Make sure you do that. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
Take care. Take care. Have a good one. Enjoy the games.
LandryFootball.com. More after this. 2 minutes off Doug Sports.
Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ooltewah. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
All right, Amanda LaFratta, we've got a lot to get to, including message board bingo, and also we've got this day in sports history. Be sure and hit that like and subscribe button, especially the subscribe. We appreciate it. Tell a friend if you enjoy the content. Tomorrow on the program, we'll be joined by Josh Ward, the sports animal, and Jonathan Compton as well. From him, that'll be on Friday, depending on when you're listening in this non-linear world that we live in. But hit the like and subscribe button. Sounds like I'm saying get off my yard in a spiritual way. But Honeybee Coffee, whether it's digital, you order online, or you're in person, is, Amanda, absolutely phenomenal.
It's great coffee. I mean, it just is best. Top 5% of the beans in the world, veteran owned, which I'm a big fan of. But just at the end of the day, it's just really good coffee. I mean, it just is.
Yep. Completely agree. So are we ready for a little message board bingo? We've got a lot of people on the message boards now, on our message board, that can try to guess. So if you beat me, then, well, you really haven't accomplished much of anything, but I'm horrible at this. To be real honest with you, maybe you could wrestle a toddler in that.
Some toddlers out there are vicious. That ain't a given.
It's going to be really, really forthright in that I'm not good at this. So, all right, let's get to it right now. It is message board bingo. Can I pick what message board this comment was on? Bam.
All right. They screwed us this offseason. All the talks about us paying players ridiculous NIL money. If us paying recruits is false, but every recruit the country thinks it's a possibility, and we don't offer any new recruits NIL deals, then we will have an extra struggle to repeat recruiting classes. National media screwed us.
One thing I've noticed, you haven't picked a Tennessee one the whole time. And any reference of NIL makes me think of Tennessee, since they're kind of the poster child, right or wrong, NIL. I will say Tennessee.
Okay, does anybody else have a guess on this chat?
Yeah, Sam says Tennessee as well. Benjamin says Texas A&M.
Send Benjamin a t-shirt because he got it.
Nice, Benjamin. You can email me at david@offthehooksports.com. We'll take care of you. I didn't even say I was going to give away a t-shirt, but I mean, just did.
Sorry.
That's fine. That comes out of the marketing budget. All right. Question 2.
All right. I know it way early, but ... If all the AR first round talk turns out to be true and he declares for the NFL at season's end, which transfer QB does CBN go after? I say DJU. It's a lot of just, initials here. Yeah, they're initials. He just needs a fresh start and power run game.
Florida.
Yep.
Look at that.
You got it.
Fun. Crazy.
Yeah, well, AR, Anthony Richardson, CBN, Coach Billy Napier. Okay, I'm sorry. Every time I see Billy Napier, do you know who I think of?
James Woods.
No.
Because everybody said yesterday that looked like James Woods. Who?
Aaron Hernandez. Every time I see Billy Napier, I think of Aaron Hernandez. Every single time. They have a strange resemblance. Like, I know that they don't look exactly alike. I'm not saying that. But, like, their hairline and, like, their whole stature and, like, their face. I don't know. They just strange resemblance there.
Well, I would have never picked that out. But since you said it, yeah. I can see that. I do hope things go better for Billy Napier than Aaron Hernandez.
Well, I hope. Yeah, please don't kill anyone. Let's try not to get murdered, Bobby.
I think things will go better for Billy. All right, the third one.
All right, so I can.
Wait. Daniel's talking trash and crazy. He's giving him some love. Daniel's 2 for 2. Good job, Daniel.
Oh, Daniel's 2 for 2.
Mm-hmm. Daniel's throwing heat. He's Nolan Ryan.
All right. So I can know what you are, please. Put an H after your post moving forward if you think 21 points at home with the Heisman frontrunner is acceptable. Put an R after all future posts if you are a realist, not realist, a realist.
What was the Heisman phrase again? Was it finalist candidate? What he said front runner?
Yeah.
Both the Heisman front runners are Tuscaloosa, and I don't think it's Alabama.
Nope.
Is it?
It's not.
I mean,
no, it's not.
Well, the person is way off base. I've got zero idea. Does anybody? We'll give you a couple of seconds if you want to punch in an answer there. Sam said Alabama too, but I mean it can't be. So did Benjamin. But it's not. So somebody's really dumb because
I'll read it again.
Well, you don't have to, but there's no Heisman front runner at any other school than Alabama. So you can just tell me who it is because this person isn't bright.
It's Ohio State.
Oh, well, that makes sense. But
CJ Stroud. Well, there's a lot of spelling errors and grammatical errors, and it's very hard to follow. So you know how Ohio State likes to say everybody down south's a bunch of hillbillies. Yep. All right. Looks good. Looks good on you.
So how did I do? I did 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is a win for me. That's making the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay. I have one more if you want to give it a go.
Shoot it out there.
All right. We won't lose. Wait, where's my bed?
Oh, right.
We won't lose again. I rewatched the Brawl, and we are pretty damn good. Our loss was a fluke combined with bad decision and a bad call. Our coaching staff did a nice job putting this team together.
That's West Virginia, right? Yeah.
The Brawl gave it away.
I got that one. So West Virginia, I will tell you that West Virginia, I think I may have told you this before, very, very underrated place to watch a football game. If you just have a free weekend and you want to go to a really cool place, the strange thing about West Virginia, though, is the people that you'll be around. So you would think what type of person would you think would be in West Virginia on campus, Amanda?
Honestly, I don't know, but I know that Nick Saban came from West Virginia, so I'm a little more inclined to, think that maybe they're halfway smart.
I
know he went to Kent State, but he came from West Virginia.
Right. I think most people would say like a country type of person, country bumpkin type from West Virginia. But if you're on campus, want to hear something really, really weird? It is very, very heavy, and like people from the Northeast that come to West Virginia. It's a beautiful drive, and they go to school there because they want to get out of the big city. And I remember sitting at a sports bar working and looking around and thinking to myself, it's like you're in New Jersey. It was that type of crowd. And I'm not.
Scary.
Yeah, I'm not knocking people from New Jersey at all. I don't want it to sound like that, but it is a very heavy Italian American group.
Oh, I like Italians.
Well, both. It is also the Jerseys and the Italian Americans, but
the Jerseys.
You're not gonna.
Jersey Shore is too far for me.
That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah, no, thank you. No. Keep your hair and keep your tans and keep your your hair products that you put in there and your very strong, aggressive accents and your gems. Just it's Jersey Shore. That was the most. I would rather watch Flavor of Love than Jersey Shore.
Sam said, doesn't sound like Almost Heaven. It's not. But it is a cool place to watch a game. Now, you just need to get out of there as quickly as you can. Once you watch the game.
Yeah, they'll probably you'll have some like spray tan rub off on you or something.
Jersey Shore nailed it. I wish I would.
Oh my God.
So that's exactly what it was. 110%. I was sitting.
Jaeger bombs.
Yeah. Constantly. And but yeah, it's a very who would have thought Morgantown is very Jersey Shore-ish.
Well, that makes me not want to go there now.
Yeah, like I said, just go to the game. You'll enjoy the game.
I don't know. A lot of people just screaming, throw the flag. Jaeger bombs, everybody at the bar. Let's go.
I think you went full on Wisconsin towards the end.
I did. I live with it, so sorry. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm bad with accents. All right. It is time for this day in sports history. Benjamin saying that it sounded French. No, it wasn't French. It sounded a little Wisconsin. It is time for this day in sports history.
This day in sports history. Putting things in perspective, exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're so old. When you were a kid, rainbows were black and white.
And Amanda LaFratta.
New kids on the block just called. They wanted you as a backup dancer.
All righty, Amanda. I do want to note that it was 50 years ago yesterday that Andre Chipotle became the first African-American quarterback in the SEC or the college football probably. And I did want to note that, but what happened today as of September the 8th?
Okay, now this one's not huge, but I have to do it. And I have to do it in the Wisconsin accent because it is Milwaukee.
Okay.
And it's my husband.
Okay.
1963, Milwaukee Braves, future Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher Warren Spahn, ties Christy What?
Is that the way they say it, Wisconsin? Span?
Yeah, I don't know how they say it.
On, but maybe they do
Or
say
maybe they say it like that. Maybe they say it's Spahn. I don't know. No, they do the eh. So it'd be Span. Ties Christy Mathewson with 13 by 20 win seasons.
And what was the end of that? They did what now? You broke up a little bit.
Sorry. He ties him with 13 20 win seasons.
That's a lot. There's no question that he was one of the elite elite pitchers.
From Milwaukee, though.
Yeah, he's from Milwaukee. Yeah, Amanda. One of the things that I find interesting about sports in general and Major League Baseball is we don't get an awful lot of talk about Aaron Judge, who's making a run at 60 home runs. That can happen. I think we always kind of wonder in the back of our mind is somebody on steroids.
What you doing over there?
Yeah, and I think it's fair to ask that question. It's going to continue to be asked, but ultimately, I do think that I think Judge is clean. I hope he's clean because I'm a Yankees fan. So we'll visit with you at 8:30 tomorrow. Looking forward to that, and also stay tuned for our YouTube channel. Hit that like and subscribe button because we'll have John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. He's up. Josh Ward of the Sports Animal as well. Big show on Friday as we will visit with Josh Ward. We'll also visit with Jonathan Crompton, former Tennessee quarterback, to give us a breakdown. So there you go. Have a fantastic day, evening, night, whenever you're listening. She is Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation